Hey everyone, this is John Puritz. Welcome to the Man Up Already podcast. This show is dedicated to each of us being better in all areas of our lives, mentally, spiritually, physically, and relationally. We want to help you be a better you because when you man up already, the world around you is greatly impacted. Here on the podcast, we don't believe you're an accident. We believe each of us is created for purpose, and this show is dedicated to helping you discover and live out that purpose. Again, welcome to the show, and let's check out another great episode. I'd love to hear your story and our listeners.
Okay, sure. Well, I could kind of dovetail off of his story, and one of the reasons why I think we're kind of perfect for for each other at this time, the time that we met 10 years ago, is because I grew up. Imagine one of your first memories being having bombs dropped in your neighborhood,
Mm.
and I was probably 4 years old living in Iran, and there was a war between Iran and Iraq at the time. And so that's kind of the environment that I grew up in. And because of our religious background, we were Baha'is. We had, we, they, it, yeah, it's the, I have to be,
No, you don't.
I know. I'm like, do I be careful and how do I
No,
word
no.
this? And the only reason why I say that because it was the government that did it. It's not the people. It was the Islamic government.
Mhm.
So I'm not saying it's the Islamic people because it's two totally different things.
Sure.
So the government, once they came in and said, in the name of God, you don't kill. God doesn't ask you to kill people. I'm sorry. It just doesn't work that way. So the Baha'is, they couldn't go to school. I mean, they can't go to college. They can't own a business. They were tormented, and in the beginning, they would come and take all the men and throw them in prison. And when you go to prison, there it was pretty much you were going to they were going to assassinate you. You weren't going to get out. And my father actually got thrown in prison twice. The first time they came in the home and they just took him out, threw him in prison, and we thought that was it. We're never going to see that.
And you were how old?
I was a toddler then. I was probably about a year or so.
Wow.
And the second time was he tried to escape the country first to come to the United States and then bring the whole family over, and he got caught. So the second time, I believe he went to prison for about 2 years or so, and luckily he got out both times. Now the third time, uh, the whole family, we got everything together, and we said we're all gonna go together. And how that goes down is that they find someone who does this for a living. They smuggle the people out of the country across the desert. So the whole family gets in this truck middle of the night, and they're taking us from one place to the other in the desert in the dead of night. And if you, at the risk of being caught, now if you got caught, we were dead. That was
Yeah.
it. That was the end of it. So we did actually run into some hiccups in the desert. The guy that was supposed to transport us to our last I guess position before we could say we're like home free, he tried to uh, basically he pretended we were lost in a desert. So every single one of us were dehydrated and passing out. And I remember my dad telling me, you got to stay awake because your brothers are sick and mom, and they were completely passed out. And this guy had other plans for us. And luckily, the patrol of, I believe it was Pakistan, the guy found us, and he escorted us to the what do you call it, the borderline in Pakistan, and that basically saved our lives. It was a bad situation, and we ended up going to Pakistan. I had to live there for a couple of years to get our visas to be able to come to the United States, and then and that was a whole nother story living there. I that's why my language is a little. I spoke Urdu in Pakistan when we lived there. And when we came to the States, I didn't speak a word of English. So going to school was lots of fun.
Mm.
And the hardship that my parents had to go through. And we kind of grew up, parents both working double shifts and the TV basically raised us. Is
Right.
how it went down. And then I ended up going through a horrible divorce, my first marriage, which was it was physically and verbally abusive. And when I met James, and this is why I say it's perfect, it's because he came from where he comes from is it's almost like having his whole world model shatter, because he thought, I live in America, and the government's for you. They're, they want the best for you.
Freedom, liberty. Yep.
Yeah,
That's
liberty. And but
Bill of
for
Rights.
yeah.
Yeah.
But for me and where I come from, that means nothing. I say no, the government is not for you. They're not for the people. The people are for the people. It doesn't work the other way around. And for him to build himself back up it's made me a stronger person. And I can see that because of what happened with 2020. It was kind of like, okay, well, it just is. This is, this is what happens. This is what governments do, and it's okay. So it in that sense, I have the, I guess you could say, backbone to be able to
Lots of backbone.
be with him, and for us to get everything back up and running, and to go through what we've been through in the past 10 years, because it hasn't been easy. I mean, we get attacked on social media all the time, where people call him a murderer, which is like beyond me. It's you don't even know what the meaning of a murder. It means, that you did it on purpose. That's insane. It's insane.
Even the jury found that was not true. But
No.
it doesn't matter, because the media had done their job and done it well.
Mhm.
And most people's attention span is not very long, as you know. And most of us aren't independent thinkers. So we kind of we're starting to become that, I
Yes.
believe. And that's the light in the tunnel to me, is that, John, have you ever had a nightmare, even maybe when you were a kid, or a really bad nightmare, and you wake up with a start? Well, and you're so relieved, that the nightmare's over. But you have to remember, it was the nightmare that woke you up.
Yeah.
So if you can remember, I only woke up because of the nightmare, then we can look at what's going on, and we can realize that, and this is a fundamental principle in this universe, every significant breakthrough is preceded by a breakdown. It can't be any other way.
Yeah.
And the breakdown is really uncomfortable, and it's really frightening. But that's what we're going through right now.
Mhm.
So I just stole on
You
the tail end of
hijacked
your
my
story.
That's okay.
Well, I would add to that, right? Like you hear it all the time. You can't have a testimony without a test.
That's right.
Mhm.
You can't be a hero without overcoming adversity.
Yeah. It's funny that you talk about that, just because, and I had no idea of your story before, just meeting here on the podcast. But I think that is the most disturbing thing for me, is knowing that and now it's the perception, I think, of the world that I thought I was growing up in and raised in and living and working in and raising a family in, is blatantly over.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the hardest thing for me as a man at 53 years old, to swallow, is sometimes my children, who are in their, young to mid 20s, asking me some questions. And some of the answers are, I don't know anymore. Right. My main business is a financial advisor.
Mhm.
And when I talk to people about, the next 10 to 20 years, some of the answers that I have are, I don't know. We're going to have to play defense until we figure out, some things, maybe that, that the picture becomes clearer, because we are in a brave new world. Right. When I think about, like, when did this really turn? I really do think 9/11 was the beginning of that slow trickle of change. And it's just been interesting to navigate. But I also believe that it's why I'm so passionate about, Gen X and being a Gen X man is, and we can maybe now go down this little rabbit trail if we want, but I know that God created me as a man for a purpose, and that is to protect, to defend, to stand firm. I said to my wife today, I had read Kingdom Man by, oh my gosh, Tony Evans. The book's right behind me. I said to my wife, I said, look, whenever you're concerned about something, I want you to remember 3 words when it comes to me: I got it. And I didn't do a good enough job early on in our marriage with that, but it is my mission today, being older and a little bit wiser, that is who we are created to be. That, the buck stops here, right? We have to stand firm. And I just believe that Gen X men have that opportunity to stand for what we were raised in, that is under attack in today's society. And I think they're fundamental truths that if we, remove those clamps, we will, I mean, if we're not already spinning out of control, you take out men and their divine design, and we're in a world of hurt.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I agree.
Mhm.
Totally agree.
I will shed some light on that. Is
Please.
I feel like if I were to compare, let's say, the demographics of the American people from the time that I lived in Iran, one thing that I take hope and faith in is the American people, like your age group and James's age group, that you guys are just not going to put up with that kind of, the government coming and taking over, and you guys basically have no say. And there's people like Joe Rogan speaking out against things that, that the main media is not doing, and they're coming out and speaking towards it. Or Jordan Peterson or Dennis Prager, even Trump coming out, fake news, this and that. So I do take faith in that fact that I don't think America will go down the same path as, like, let's say, some Middle Eastern country like Iran.
Yeah, I there's too many people out there that are feeling the same way. I really do believe that, right? I really do. In the end, think we're talking about a very small demographic that that is getting all the attention, but underneath that, are people every day, going, and maybe, James, like we were talking about earlier, maybe it does take. I forget how you put it. I say the house is burning and she's walking out the door, right? But maybe it takes, it's going to be something that rattles enough people's cages where we go, no, this is the line. You're not crossing it.
I think it does. You mentioned that you thought 9/11 was the inception of the slow trickle, and I would go back at least until 1971, where there's been a slow trickle when Nixon took us off the gold standard, and again, this is such a web that's woven here. But when you look at the Federal Reserve, which is an independent unit from the government, they operate independently. You look at what you think is a US dollar, it's not a US dollar. It says Federal Reserve note on top. And it's a symbol of debt. And God knows our debt is ludicrous right now.
Yep.
But when we went off the gold standard and we just started printing fiat currency, things began to shift. And then you can see the shifts. I'm working on a new book right now, and I'm kind of walking through these periods in history and where the shifts occurred. You mentioned men and women are meant to be together. Well, we agree. That's biblical. It says in the Bible that other kinds of relationships, are not sanctioned, are not sacred. Now, if you're a grown adult and you choose to do something, you're a grown adult. Just don't put it on the children. And don't condition the children,
or force it on other people,
or force it on others, or
It's not like we're just like, hey, we're straight. You don't want to be straight.
Yeah, great. What's wrong with you? You
Come
know,
on,
That's so true.
I
Right.
want I want a heterosexual Pride Month. I mean,
Yeah.
come on,
Look how straight I am.
But nonetheless, what started to happen little by little, and Gen X is a big part of that. If you look at the history of Gen X, and I don't know what your specific experience is, but I know that Bersabeh is on the cusp of Gen X and millennial. So that means she whines and she gets mad about it.
Sometimes I'm
Because Gen X is always pissed off about something. What's that?
millennial. I want to make an impact.
What's that? Millennials want to make an impact, and
By doing
Gen
nothing.
X is like, let's take the system down.
Yeah, I mean, look, Gen X birthed grunge, for gosh sakes. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah, exactly. There you go. Rage Against the Machine came out of
Yeah.
Gen X. It's a perfect example of Gen X. And so nonetheless, I don't know what your experience was, but if you look at Gen X, it was the most underparented
Yep.
generation in history. They were the latchkey kids.
Yep.
The nomads. They came home. When I came home, I'm a boomer, right on the end of the boomer, and because I'm on the end of the boomer, that means I missed out on all the free love and drugs and sex part. Woodstock, I was too young, but nonetheless, when I came home from school, Mom was home every day. We ate breakfast together as a family. We ate dinner together as a family. Dad came home from changing the world every night, and Mom was there to nurture us, and not Gen X. Because why? Go back to 71 and how things started. Credit came into play, and now all of a sudden I can put something on a credit card. I can get it right now and pay it over time, but I'll never pay it off. I don't think about that though. And now all of a sudden I can lease a car and put down a little bit of money, and not a lot of money, but I can rent it. But when the lease is up, it goes back. So it's not mine. And so all these things started to happen, and both parents now need to work because financially it was getting more expensive to survive. At the same time, the women's movement started to shift into big gear, and they started to move from inequality in voting to, hey, we're just like men, and we need to be able to get the same jobs as men, and that's maybe more noble than being a mom. I happen to disagree. But nonetheless, it's a long gestalt, if you will, of things that have happened over a long period of time, and it's just coming more to it was kind of insidious and under the rug for a while, and a slow drip, and since 2020 it's been full bore, and it's coming full above the table, and that's what's causing us to wake up.
Yeah, it's such a good description of what we're talking about and what I was thinking. It's funny on how you see it, right? Gen X, because we were so underparented. I say that the advantage that Gen X had, certainly over the millennials and younger, is it was be home after dark. It was, I'm not going to be home until after dark, so make sure you make dinner and you do XYZ. So the amount of responsibility without technology equipped us to be a lot more self-reliant, and certainly have more angst, right? Because we were doing crap, on our own way more than what our parents were doing maybe when they were our age, I guess, but I just know that, we were way more self-reliant and probably way more self-introspective of what was happening around us. So it's an interesting thing, but I also think, and I've said this since it happened, and I really do believe that history books later on, if you want to attribute to the accelerated decline of Western civilization, I like to say, it's social media. I really truly believe that this is the catalyst for the enemy's playground. I really do. And I think we're when things are that available and that easily seen, manipulated, etc., it's a recipe for destruction.
It really is, and particularly without when that becomes the babysitter, and which it does. I mean, Bersabeh has young nephews who spend their entire day on iPads. You know, I mean, heaven forbid you go outside and you get some sunshine, or you play some kickball or something. No, I'm going to save the universe on my iPad. So, you know,
well, that's created the 30-year-olds that sit and watch or play video games, and they're married with a wife and a kid. That's
yeah. Are you serious right now? You know, you're still playing Xbox and you're 35 years old. I mean,
well, hang on a second. I have an Xbox. That's actually a great story. That's actually, I'll tell you that story. So, because you went there, and I'm defending all 50-something-year-old men that have an Xbox, because I was a school teacher for 10 years, right? My background is in education, and I would come home and I love telling the story because Gen X also was around for firsts. We were there when MTV happened. We were there when the internet happened, when file sharing happened, all that stuff. And certainly when the way video games kind of grew. But I was very much into computer games. And then our family, my wife and I, gave everything up in our early 30s, came here to Florida. And I went from being an employee to an entrepreneur like that. And I put the video games away because it's like, who has time for that? And so for 20 years, literally, it was, you don't do that. It's a waste of time, right? Et cetera. There's more things. And my wife, we made some major changes in our life, and I have time on my hand. And my wife was like, you do nothing for you and you're driving me crazy. You're getting an Xbox. You liked it before, and I need you to do something that is enjoyable. And so even if it's just a half hour, but I enjoy it. It's a little checkout moment, right? Some people watch movies or some people do whatever, and I do all the other things, but there's this little sleeve where I get to play video games and have fun with that. So there's my defense.
So it sounds to me you just threw your wife under the bus and made her responsible for your Xbox. But who am I to judge?
No, I'll give you that. But there's some guys that they don't have. It's almost like they had, other than like going to a 9-to-5 job or something. Then that's all they do, and they really don't have.
No, I agree with you.
I mean, you do coaching and mentoring, so do both of us. Hers is very different than mine, but I have clients in their early 30s who, play Xbox at night and smoke pot because they can't go to sleep without smoking pot. And again, it's very in vogue right now to smoke pot, and there's a lot of propaganda out there saying it's good for you, but there's a lot of research from Stanford too that proves that there's greater heart disease, and it shuts down the cerebral cortex, the executive center. And if I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Daniel Amen. We follow him on Instagram, and he is a psychologist and a neurosurgeon, and he has done brain scans of people who drank alcohol and smoke pot. And it shows you that every single sphere of the brain is underperforming for people who are doing those things. And so,
well, I think the reality of that is, you ask anyone who's smoked pot back in the day when it was illegal, and you can get in little baggies.
Were you raising your hand?
I was.
Yeah.
So, like, anyone who smoked it on a regular basis, they know that it's not good for you. Like, it's not good for you. So the fact that they've somehow, I don't know what they're telling themselves to buy into this. Yeah, well, it's good for you. It's legal now. What?
Right.
No.
Right. I want to, because this could easily be a 2-hour podcast. I am so connecting with you guys and having a lot of fun with you. But we got to land the plane at some point. So I want to kind of bring us full circle to I think in our entire conversation today, there is some very clear indicators that the three of us know, and a lot of people know, but a lot more people don't. That we're watching behaviors lead to, there are going to be a lot of people that are aware and how to move to the next level in life and how to live a fulfilled life. And there's a lot of people who are going to be checked out. I don't know if you're familiar with Napoleon Hill's book, Outwitting the Devil, but I preach that book because the concept of drift, which all of these things contribute to. If you're checked out on a video game, you're smoking pot, you're drinking, whatever it is, anything that causes you to drift, you do not fulfill your major purpose in life. And there are those, again, like us, that say, no, I'm aware of that. And I'm going to tune into the things that help me: food, I call them the 7 F's: faith, fitness, finances, firm, friendships, fun, these things that allow me to be this human being that God created me to be, so that I can live a life of purpose and be aware of the things that keep that from happening. And I find the gap between those that get that and those that either don't or refuse to in our society is getting wider. So I just kind of maybe want to, wrap us up with just that conversation and your thoughts on it.
You want to take that?
Where do you
I like your
start
5
from?
F's.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
nice.
You can talk about food. That's one of your favorite. She is the world's biggest foodie.
Controlled.
Yeah.
I agree.
Oh, but very, very aware of foodie.
Yeah. Okay. So I've gone through quite a bit of cleanup because of the way that I grew up, and I gave you a little bit of the history of what my childhood was like. It led me down the path of smoking cigarettes. I smoked cigarettes for 24 years. Recently quit. It's been 6 years. I did a lot of drugs. I've done a lot of drinking, and this was all because you want to check out. It's the whole drifting, because it's very hard to deal with, because those are the effects of the cause that has happened to you. Cause being the traumas that I experienced at a young age. So for anyone to put those things aside, they have to deal with the cause. So you're not going to have your cigarette, you're not going to have your kick or whatever distraction you have. Then all of a sudden comes this, issue that you've been trying to put aside. Now you can deal with it, right? And it's a very, very hard thing to do. I will never minimize it, because I had a very rough time going through it. And thankfully, he helped me and he was with me at the time. And I dealt with and here's what happens is that throughout life, I never wanted to be a smoker. And I've tried to quit ever since I was 19 years old. Couldn't do it until life gets you to a point. You get to a point and life forces you. You either make the decision to stop and change your pattern of life, or the other path that you're going to go down to, it's that's it, you're done. There's no return from that path. And everyone faces this. Now, if you're willing to take the hard path towards light, then you have the opportunity to do so. But if you don't, I mean, life has a very, I would say, funny way of smacking us hard when you don't do ultimately what's right and you're supposed to do, that you came in this lifetime to do in the first place. And it had pushed, and I had gotten to that crossroad where I was getting heart palpitations. I was only 35 at the time or so. That's crazy. I mean, to have that, I knew that the rest of my life, how it would look like in not having your health, you pretty much really don't have a life anymore.
Right.
And that's just a fact. And I've never experienced, what I really wanted was to experience a life where I didn't have this addiction. And I didn't want to be one of those who quit smoking, but I thought about it all the time. Thought about getting my next quick hit. And through the work that I did, the cleanup work that I did, and I pushed myself through it. I started with my physical body. I cleaned up my diet. I started going to the gym every day. taking supplements and nutrients. And then it's what are you watching? What are you feeding yourself? Clean all that out. What are you listening to? Clean all that out. And then we did through a process I do with my clients is doing deep healing work. It's intuitive healing, intuitive integration. So you go in and you heal these traumas that you've occurred, and you literally set yourself free because you're collecting these parts of yourself that's stuck in time somewhere, you can say. And I know it to be possible because I've done it on myself. And I know that it works because I've done it on myself. The drifting, you could ignore it all you want. Drift, ignore, but sooner or later, life is going to smack you. And it's going to smack you hard. The longer you wait, the harder you're going to get smacked.
Mm,
Put it that way.
that's really good. I gotta write that down.
Make sure you reference her if you quote that.
That's okay.
That's a Bersabehism.
The longer you wait, the harder you'll get smacked.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, you want to be the one making the choice to do something different. You don't want life forcing you. That is,
Yeah.
you don't want to do that.
It's really, again, it's all these things connect, and it's certainly another topic at another time, but it's something that I'll talk about. I'm speaking at an event tomorrow online for someone, and you're one, we talk about all the time goals, and, it's a dream and it's a wish until it becomes emotional. And then when it's emotional, that's when it really is a goal, right? It's only until that point where it is an internal thing, right? You stopped smoking because you had to, you wanted to, you were emotionally connected to a theoretical thing. And only until the head and the heart align can we really then get after those things, which is something I think, people are chasing things in life so often that they're not emotionally connected to. And you're just kind of running around in a circle, never really achieving the things that you really can until you really get, which is why I believe in mentors and coaches and having somebody to help you guide you through that process.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah. To that point, in my New York Times bestseller, Harmonic Wealth, I talk about what I call going 3 for 3. Your thoughts, feelings, and actions all must be firing in alignment. If you want to create what you desire and deserve, your thoughts, feelings, and actions all must be firing in alignment. Emotion is like the engine in the car. Your thoughts are just a steering wheel. It's a directional device. It's going to tell you, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there, I'm going to discern this or discriminate against that, whatever. But the emotion is the engine. Look at the word emotion, energy in motion. It moves your body to act. And until, you mentioned Napoleon Hill, as much as I love Think and Grow Rich, I love Outwitting the Devil even more. I think it's a better book. I read it when I was in prison, actually, and it really, really is profound. And so, if you just, but so many times we hear, just visualize, just think about it, just think of what you think about comes about. Oh, really? Well, how's that working for you? It's probably not, because if you're not going 3 for 3, you can feel something and not have the vision, and that's not going to work either. You can act without a vision or a feeling, and that's not going to work either. You've got to do all 3.
Yeah.
So you're spot on with that.
Well, I like the way you did that, by the way, because you did write a book called Harmonic Wealth, which I think you have a gift for our listeners.
We do. I had this really big goal when I put out Harmonic Wealth to redefine the word wealth. If you ask 99% of the people what wealth means, they're going to say something about finances or money.
Mm-hmm.
But if you trace the etymology of the word wealth back to its origins, it literally translates as well-being. It has nothing to do with money. That doesn't mean money can't be present, but harmonic wealth is about harmony and well-being. And what you have 5, we have 5 as well: financial, relational, mental, physical, spiritual. When all of those are in harmony, then you're truly wealthy.
Yeah.
And so, yes, we'd love to give a gift to your viewers of my New York Times bestseller, Harmonic Wealth, and help me with the URL.
It's harmonicsuccess.net/HW-book.
All right, hang on a second. We're gonna
Yeah.
I
we're gonna put that up.
Okay.
Okay.
No,
and
we're gonna put that up. Give that to me one more time.
It's harmonicsuccess.net/HW and then -book.
And
Thank you.
I have that right.
Yep, you got it. Thank you.
And when you go there, you put in your information, you'll instantly get the ebook, but we made it better. We also are going to give you the audio version so you can listen to it on the treadmill or on the bike, which hopefully you use. And then we also hired a film crew, and we have a full feature film called Harmonic Wealth, and we're going to give you a streaming copy of the film as well.
Yeah.
Wow,
just
awesome.
for going there. So, hopefully that'll help benefit you in these times to create harmony and well-being, even in difficult times. That's our great wish.
That's awesome. I really, really appreciate, you doing that, and just two, what you guys are after, even in spite of everything that you've experienced in life, and how you've taken that pain and made it a purpose. It's pretty awesome what you guys are doing. And I'm so grateful how things work. And, I just made a wacky connection, and here you guys are on, in my opinion, one of the best episodes of the year. So I really, truly appreciate you both.
It means a lot.
Thank you.
It's always such an honor to have such incredible guests here on the podcast. And the podcast just wouldn't be what it is without our great sponsor, Master Beef Jerky. Head on over to masterbeefjerky.com. Check out their product. It is really incredible beef jerky if you're a fan like we are. It's made here in the USA. It's handcrafted. There's no MSG. It's low in fat. It's gluten-free. It's just freaking good. Their motto is bold flavor, tender bite, and they've got flavors like their original. They've got smoked barbecue, Korean barbecue, Western teriyaki, sweet and spicy, mango and pineapple, carne asada, garlic pepper, a Carolina Reaper flavor, and black pepper. It is good stuff. Head on over to masterbeefjerky.com, and on your order, if you put in coupon code MUAP, you will get 20% off. Master Beef Jerky, bold flavor, tender bite, and a great sponsor of the podcast.